I got somebody really attacking me right now. I mean, really going after me, man. I'm just waiting to see what God gonna do.
Steve Harvey. It started quietly, the way most storms do, with a few words spoken on stage that hit harder than expected. Veteran entertainer Steve Harvey stood before a crowd, polished and confident as always. But this time, his message wasn't a punchline or a motivational gem. It was a warning. He said that any comedian or rapper who disrespected him would get handled like a man, and in that moment, everyone knew who he was talking about. For months, comedian Katt Williams had been making waves online, calling out what he described as company men, comedians who played by Hollywood's rules instead of standing for the truth. His list of targets included some of the biggest names in the game, but one name stood taller than the rest: Steve Harvey. When Steve's words hit the internet, it didn't take long for Katt to respond. He didn't raise his voice or crack a joke. Instead, he looked straight into the camera and said, "Steve, you too old to be threatening folks. Ain't you supposed to be wise, not wild? Don't talk about knocking me out when you couldn't even stand up to your own barber." The internet exploded. Comments flooded timelines, reaction videos piled up, and hashtags began trending within hours. For fans, this wasn't just a clash between two entertainers, it was a collision between two worlds. On one side stood Steve Harvey, polished, respected, and deeply rooted in the traditional entertainment industry. On the other was Katt Williams, raw, unfiltered, and speaking straight from the soul. And just when things couldn't get any louder, another voice joined the chaos: rapper Lil Breeze. Breeze wasn't one to stay quiet during a cultural storm. When asked about the situation, he didn't hesitate. "Man, I ain't got nothing bad to say about Cal. That man's real to me. When I came home and didn't have nothing, he invited me to his concert, gave me front row seats, and even handed me 15 grand. Ain't too many real ones like that left." It was a simple story, but it hit deep. Breeze wasn't defending Cal because of fame, he was defending loyalty. Moments later, he went live on social media. Calm at first, but soon the message was loud and clear: Steve Harvey don't scare nobody. He's a talk show host, not a street general. The internet went into overdrive again. Clips, comments, and reactions flew across every platform. Fans chose sides. Some argued Steve had earned his respect through years of work. Others said Cal and Breeze were simply brave enough to say what others were too afraid to admit. Behind all the noise, though, there was history: years of quiet tension between Cal and Steve. Cal had long accused Steve of selling out, of trading authenticity for TV deals and safe jokes. Years ago, during a viral interview, Cal had joked, or maybe not joked, that Steve once tried to take another comedian's movie role behind the scenes. At the time, most people laughed it off, but now, those old comments resurfaced, and the debate reignited. To many fans, Steve Harvey represented the gatekeepers, the veterans who played by the rules of Hollywood, who kept their image polished and professional. To others, Katt Williams represented the truth tellers, the ones who refused to play nice just to stay on TV. It was a philosophical divide disguised as a feud. Steve, in interviews and sermons, often spoke about discipline, dignity, and maintaining faith through hard times. But after his warning to handle anyone who disrespected him, critics said his tone no longer matched his message. Supporters, however, saw it differently. To them, Steve was defending his legacy, a man tired of being disrespected after decades of building a career the hard way. As the clips circulated, Steve eventually addressed the situation on his radio show. His tone was calm but firm. "Be careful when you hear something laid out to be the truth just because it's said smoothly," he told his audience. "Some people know how to lie so well, they sprinkle just enough truth in to make you believe it." It was a message about perception, but many viewers believed it was directed straight at Katt Williams. Meanwhile, Cal wasn't backing down. He took the high ground, but his words still stung. "Brother Steve, you too old to be fighting people who never disrespected you. I called you out 'cause you fake, not 'cause I hate. There's a difference." That clip went viral instantly. Across YouTube and TikTok, creators analyzed every line. One user wrote, "You can't knock Cal out, not in comedy, not in life, not in spirit." The phrase became a slogan across social media. Even though Steve never responded directly, the internet kept fueling the fire. Some fans started rewatching old interviews and comedy specials, searching for signs of tension between the two. Others saw the whole thing as entertainment. A generational showdown between authenticity and image. And then there was Little Breeze still adding flames to the fire. He posted again saying, "These TV dudes think they untouchable cause they on camera every day. But we, the ones people really listen to." That quote alone reshaped the conversation. Suddenly, this wasn't just about three entertainers, it was about two different versions of success. Was the true power in the hands of polished professionals with corporate backing, or with the raw voices who spoke without filters? The internet reacted quickly, with many viewers choosing sides. Some fans argued that Steve Harvey was right to protect his reputation, especially after years of hard work. Others believed Katt Williams and Little Breeze were standing up for artistic freedom and realness in an industry that often rewards image over truth. Podcasters and analysts jumped in, dissecting the feud in long-form discussions. One commentator summed it up perfectly. "This isn't just comedy versus hip-hop. It's Hollywood versus the culture. It's suits versus sneakers." By the end of that week, every major entertainment outlet had weighed in. Steve Harvey remained silent, choosing, as some said, the high road. Others saw it as avoidance. A viral comment read, "If Steve really had that old-school confidence, he'd face Cal head-on. Silence feels like an L." The memes came next. Images of Steve holding boxing gloves captioned "Still undefeated" flooded timelines. Clips of Katt Williams speaking about truth and authenticity were re-edited into mini-documentaries, set to dramatic music. Little Breeze became the unexpected star of the chaos, his calm storytelling about loyalty turning him into the people's favorite for all the humor and heat. One thing became clear: people were hungry for something real. They were tired of perfectly staged wisdom, tired of sanitized monologues. They wanted honesty, even if it was messy. And in that sense, Katt Williams and Little Breeze represented something bigger than a feud. They stood for a generation that values transparency over tradition. Still, not everyone agreed with them. Some critics argued that Cal's approach crossed the line, turning what could have been a respectful conversation into a public spectacle. Others said Breeze's involvement only escalated things, pulling street energy into a situation that didn't need it. As one cultural journalist put it, "What started as comedy became commentary on power." Steve represents order. Cal and Breeze represent disruption. Both sides have truth and both sides have ego. Eventually, the conversation quieted down, but the impact lingered. Clips of Cal's fiery honesty continued to trend for weeks, while Steve's fans posted old videos of his motivational talks as reminders of his wisdom and success. The public watched, divided but fascinated. Steve's response drew mixed reactions, with many viewers debating whether his remarks were a show of authority or an act of overreach. Cal's comments, meanwhile, were praised for their candor, but some said he risked disrespecting a legend who paved the way. In the middle stood Little Breeze, acting less like an instigator and more like a bridge between the two worlds, loyal to authenticity but still grounded in respect. His message stayed the same: you can't threaten what's real. As the dust settled, one thing became undeniable: this wasn't just entertainment drama. It was a reflection of a larger cultural conversation happening everywhere, about honesty, image, power, and respect. Steve Harvey, Katt Williams, and Little Breeze each represented a piece of that puzzle. Steve, the established gatekeeper who climbed the mountain the hard way. Katt, the truth teller who refuses to play by the rules. And Breeze, the voice of the people, loyal to those who stayed authentic when no one was watching. Each of them walked away with something different. Steve kept his composure, but his image took a dent. Katt gained renewed respect from fans who value transparency over fame. And Breeze cemented himself as a symbol of loyalty, a man who stood by the ones who stood by him. By the time the headlines faded, the internet had already decided who it believed. Not necessarily who was right, but who felt real. Because in the end, that's what every story like this comes down to. In a world full of cameras, contracts, and curated quotes, people don't always follow the most powerful voice. They follow the most honest one. And that's exactly why this moment, part comedy, part conflict, and part cultural reckoning, will be remembered. Not for the insults, not for the memes, but for what it revealed: that truth, no matter how messy, still has the loudest mic.